So, welcome. I hope the slides work now. It was a bit funny with me trying to get used to me. I'm sort of a Linux person, and when I try to play my games, and I play a lot of games, I use this huge, massive graphic card driver called Windows, and I'm not very good with Macs, yes. Well, welcome to the talk. I have promised to show a quokka in my talk, so hereby I have done this. I'm going to be talking to you about sex, unicorns, and Awsomesauce, and I want you to have fun during this talk. This talk is supposed to be nice, it's supposed to be light-hearted, maybe a couple of things, a bit of food for thought in there, and food, but just don't take everything far too seriously, I might ask you for. And to get you into the mood, I'm going to start with a story. In a novel I'm writing, it's going to be a series of novellas that's coming out. There's a scene in there. There are two people, two protagonists. They're called Flora and Star, and they go into a parallel universe. They are on a mission to explore this place, and then they come through this threshold, and they enter into this world that's full of really awesome, nearly sea foamy, cloudy-looking trees, really nice lawns and nice pathways. And they start to explore this place, and they think, well, it looks, we've got these pathways, and we can walk around, but we haven't seen any people yet. And they walk around further, and then they hear voices. And they get close, and they hear that, yes, it's human voices. And there are people having a picnic between trees, and they're enjoying this lavish food, and my protagonist's getting hungry and watching but hiding, but somehow they fail to hide themselves properly, so the picnic has noticed these newcomers. And then the craziest thing happens, because those people who have been eating and really enjoying their food, and you all know what a mouthgasm is when you have something awesome to eat. Imagine a chocolate chip cookie you dunk into coffee and then you eat it, and it's just marvelous in your mouth. And they were doing similar things. And then suddenly they were caught in the act, and these people ripped off their clothes and started having sex with each other in this kind of nonchalant, really weird orgy. And my protagonist from our world here, standing there and thinking, shit, we've caught those people in the act. They're throwing that food away, covering it up, and just having sex and asking us to join them. And this has got a lot to do with my talk. I will take you back to reality after seeing the first unicorn I have promised. And, oh, God, lovely. Well, in our reality, we have often had many things about sex and food maybe being sinful, sex being sinful, celebrating food, celebrating sex, and that's sort of what I want to talk to you about. There's often been philosophers and writers and people thinking about why do we enjoy food as something public and celebrated for parties, whereas sex is taboo or dirty or something you have to do behind closed doors. And if you think of those picnickers in that world, what this lady is doing is something completely different to what she's doing in our world. Anyway, now we've got sex and food, and I will start with sex, because you like sex. In our culture, sex is seen as something that's there, it's omnipresent, but somehow people don't really talk about it. They talk that sex sells, yes, you have to look sexy, you have to keep fit, but somehow, yes, also maybe after things like Sex and the City came into our pop culture, it became a bit more normal even for women to sit together and talk about sex and talk about their sex lives, about their lovers, or maybe female lovers, male lovers, and but it's still not really normalized. It often depends on what type of people you are with. You can be more open about sex, or you should rather not talk about it because people might feel offended for maybe religious, moral, or whatever other reasons. And otherwise, especially when you talk about religions, sex has always somehow been there, and it's also been, or sometimes is, also part of religious ceremonies or part of spirituality. And otherwise, sex in, like for the Catholic Church, sex is a deadly or mortal sin. Luxuria means lust. You hunger for sex and you want to have sex for not making babies, not how the Catholic Church wants you to have sex, but the way you want to do, and maybe even alone with your friend Jill. And the Catholic Church doesn't like that at all. You can see here, because if you do that, you're going straight to Satan's doorstep. And if you ring that bell, oh, he'll be there. And I must say, for a quick reality check, if this were true, if I were Satan, I'd have turned my doorbell off because I want to live in peace and not have loads of people who are jerking off, getting on my nerves. Otherwise, sex, also here in the public space, this picture comes from Switzerland, and this is an advert for a brothel, and it shows that a certain type of person is encouraged to have actively pursue sex, and that it is somehow just being pushed into this open space, into the public space, even though children could walk around there in that train station. But there's a picture of you enjoy your sex life, and otherwise another group of person is encouraged to be a good sex provider, or a provider of sexiness, of looking good and learning awesome skills in bed. You can see here 20 mind-blowing sex moves. I don't know what the heck they are. I've never used them, but I'm still happy. And otherwise, men are told to learn some kind of new rules of masculinity. I hear that all the time. It's like every 5 years there are rules for some kind of gender roles coming out, and I think, God, it's got nothing to do with real life, and it's got nothing to do with having a really happy sex life. And these messages are also not just in lifestyle media. You get it, this phenomena is called Frau auf Blau. It's German. And Frau auf Blau is mostly blonde Frauen. And this phenomena emerged in the 90s when these fortnightly TV magazines came, and this is one of the most famous ones, also of course with Frau und Blau. And even the editors are often saying, we want to maybe something change it, but apparently the people who buy these magazines just go for Frau auf Blau. And I think, even though they say, oh, women who buy it, they like to see it and whatever, I don't know what they think. In this article, I've linked it in the slides when I provide it for you. You can go and look at the article about it. But apparently, these chefredacteurs, they go there and say, yeah, but women like it too, and they like to have a look at a sexy woman, and maybe they will feel sexy too. I think that's absolute bullshit. It's just a knee-jerk reaction, because it reminded me of when I was in a supermarket buying cheese, and I got my cheese and it said, coming soon, new packaging. Meaning you have to just look out to see when you're buying your cheese, to look for maybe different colors. And I think that's the same case when it comes to maybe TV magazines, but still this subliminal message of, yeah, a woman being sexy, maybe even blonde or whatever, that it turns into this rot, and it's not just there for what it may have once been for, to be a sexy eye candy, but it's just become a knee-jerk reaction that TV magazines have to be Frau und Blau. It gets a bit boring. Anyway, and there are other things. Women are sort of told, yeah, provide sexiness, be sexy. That then, in certain countries, certain areas, then, look at this, that's a mum bod and a dad bod there. If you've seen that on Twitter yet, there are various online discussions about dad bods, and of course mum bods have to be out there too now. Anyway, there are lots of mixed messages, and I think it's a bit of a party-pooping thing, because you can say, oh yeah, she's wearing a short skirt, she's a slut, oh, she's wearing a red dress, oh, she was out there, a manhunter. A woman might just wear a red dress because she likes the colour and it reminds her of the poppies she's seen on her walk on last Sunday, and she just likes the colour. And there's a lot of interpretation into sort of assumed signals that women are supposed to send out, whereas actually a dress is just a dress, or it might be black and blue, or it might be white and gold. Anyway, I think we have to change a couple of things. Think about things that are maybe, for some people, yeah, things on the side, it's not really important, but there's still phenomena in our life that somehow, in a very quiet and a very sort of subliminal way, shape the way we think, or look at what sex is, or what is a symbol for sex. And a lot of things with sex is also numbers. As often when you are on a date or want to have a date, you're asked, what's your number? And there's either this answer, who knows that? Who knows that? Arms up. Yeah, I won't sing it now, it takes too long. And there's also this number, the answer. Because my number's 42. Yeah, and for some people it would be, God, look at that slut, oh, she's been whoring around. For other people, maybe in our world, it's, well, oh, you've got a lot of experience. Whereas other people would prefer to say, oh yeah, 5 people, okay, I'm in my mid-30s, oh yeah, okay, she's got a bit of experience, but she hasn't been too dirty. That's also maybe okay, but this is pro. Anyway, now there's of course been a lot of shitstorms these days. I won't say any specific words, but we all know on the internet there are currently a lot of discussions about perceptions of gender, of sex, of sexiness going on. And these big shitstorms are also due to shifting paradigms about people starting to view things differently. And often when very conservative people notice that the way things are, and we have always done that, is slowly being less accepted, of course they want to protect their territory the way they think it's right and good, and become aggressive, hence the shitstorms. But now I'm going to talk to you about food. Food is always there. We see food in adverts, we see food in magazines, there's food porn on the internet. And we just like looking at good food, we like watching chefs cook things on TV, on YouTube, wherever, and we also may sometimes be inspired to cook something nice ourselves instead of just having the old meat and potatoes, or going to the restaurant and have the 10th pizza this week. And there's also a deadly sin, gula, which means gluttony. Gluttony, and there's also a Facebook picture to go with this, because there's also sins with, too many carbs and there's sugar in there. Right now on the net, there are so many pictures going around on Twitter showing these amounts of sugars in different drinks, and I just think, God, and think of sugar, it's 100% sugar. Who would have thought that? And feeling sinful and feeling bad for having eaten something really delicious but full of calories is also similar to guilt when you have had sex, but you know you somehow shouldn't have had this sex, or thought of sex, or masturbated. And this lady here, who knows her? This is, Julia Child, from the mid-20th century, and she's someone who brought the idea of especially French and European food to the USA, and I would call her the Hugh Hefner of food porn. And she encourages you to enjoy food and like it, and even a lot of really fatty things with a lot of butter and cream. And that is not good if you want to look fit. And when we come to looking fit, some people might just have that on their own, and there are also double standards with food sometimes. I like having something like that for breakfast on a lazy Saturday, but according to some other people, it's for men. And I think, when have we ever ingested our food with our genitals? Because there's other cliches. These are vegan cupcakes, by the way. And vegan cupcakes, I must say, just on a side note, are awesome. They're their own category of awesome cupcakes. And the topping on top is a bit like these marshmallows, or in German you call them Schaumküsse. And if you ever come by vegan cupcakes, have some. On the other hand, food like this is, of course, associated with women, maybe, or girly, or whatsoever. And as Leslie Knope says it here, I'm not going to show a salad because salad cliches are even worse. But now, especially now having cupcake and thinking of the concept of salad, there's also the concept of health and food. And I will now try and give you a bit of an idea of what a world could be like, where sex is seen as healthy. So there's a society, a sort of proposed society, where sex is seen as good, it's healthy, it keeps you fit, and if you have a lot of sex with your partner, or maybe several partners, and you're experienced and good at sex, but you shouldn't have too much food except for maybe salads and low-carb food. And then you can also maybe have a fitness tracker. And I'll tell you what, it already exists. It's going to be sold to you soon. A Spanish company, Geek's Phone, is selling Geek Me. And you can see here, the most interesting thing I thought about that is this detail, that they still, according to our rules of society, and it's from Spain, of course, be aware of privacy and you have to be confidential about it. But it's already coming that you can track your sexual whatever performance they say or your sex life as a part of, maybe instead of running those 3 kilometers, you can also boink your partner for an hour. I think that's nice. On the other hand, then, imagine, you know, there are some insurance companies who are starting to, at least, I don't know, maybe some of you will know more about it, but I know there are apparently some health insurance companies that say if you wear a fitness tracker and you show that you live a healthy life and you do sport and you eat sort of gesund and have good food, you pay less rates. So it could also mean that if you took a picture of your food and someone found out about what you were eating, and this is stuff I've made, these lovely drizzled buns, they were good, with buttermilk. And there would maybe imagine a world where revenge food porn would be a real reality. Imagine. And imagine that I had this dinner last night at Cafe Einstein. And I had the schnitzel, my friend had the steak, and we shared. It was both really, really good. I can really recommend it. And the most interesting thing was what I thought, except for, I took a picture of my meal and my friend's meal, and in this dystopian world, I'm just trying to sort of get over to you. Maybe leaking this would say, oh God, you've been eating that instead of salads and just a bit of chicken. Oh, beware. And the metro there was talking to us. He's a very jolly guy, a great person. He said, yeah, a lot of political Berlin comes here. And apparently this schnitzel, according to rumors, is favored by Chancellor Merkel. And now in this dystopian world, I'm thinking, it would be maybe be the same. Merkel going to this food Freuden house to enjoy her gorgeous food would be sort of food bunga bunga. And apparently also, Merkel loves cake. And imagine Bild-Zeitung having, or whatever tabloid saying, Merkel's cake is apparently not a lie, as a scandal instead of a sex scandal. And to come down to the main point here is we have to take sex more seriously. Of course, people take sex seriously, and there are some public some public adverts out there that encourage you to have safe sex, for instance. Use condoms, take care of yourself, AIDS awareness, World AIDS Tag on the 1st of December. And that is, for me, I think, one start of people slowly taking sex seriously and starting to talk about it openly, also with ads in a very serious and also very kind way. And we have to also take responsibility for our thoughts and feelings, I mean it. Is because if you sort of think you're having sex, you've got emotions and everything, and I give my heart to you and my feelings to you and my sex to you. No, you can't do that. Those feelings belong to you, and if you want to share these things with those people, and those other person might not want to because of some other reasons, you just have to think, okay, it's mine anyway, and they don't want it. Okay, fine, let them pass on. And there would be a certain amount of less friction in this world that maybe help us have a better sex life. So, how do we, I've got 3 steps of maybe an idea how to have a better sort of also public perception of sex, to have us accept what sex really is and not just how media currently shows it to us or how sort of ideas floating around show it to us. And the first thing is we should meet all gazers. The gaze is often talked about, the male gaze is showing a lot of women plastered around in tabloids, in adverts, in films, in Game of Thrones. There are a lot of naked women there. It's fine. I don't mind showing sex in things like that, but maybe it would be nice, instead of saying, oh, no more page 3 or no more naked women in Bild-Zeitung, you might have heard of the campaign out there, is maybe saying, let's just think about what there is. Okay, there are naked women. People enjoy having a bit of en passant eye candy and see what it really is. It's like a buffet that only has salad. Imagine in your daily life, there was some room everywhere in every town or village where you could get a little snack of food for free. You went there, but it was always salad. Never anything else. And when you say, oh, but I'd like to have a steak. I'd like maybe have some cake and whatever. No, the world is a salad eater's world, and even steak eaters like to have some salad every now and then. Accept this reality. It will always be like that. And if you want to have steak, provide for yourself, because out here in the public, you have to go by the rules of the salad eaters. And I think it's just the same. Again, fuck salad. And the internet. This is interesting because we all know and love this song, The Internet is for Porn. And in Avenue Q, the musical where this is from, it's a female figure singing about, the internet and all the knowledge you can have there, and there's male characters singing that it's for porn. And this is a bit outdated because Pornhub has found out, and it's often been talked about somehow, the largest percentage of people consuming gay porn with gay men are women. Because they want to see some nice cock, they want to see some nice butts, they want to see some nice bodies. Just like men like looking at pussies and tits and ass. It's human. And the industry... Thank you. Glad you appreciate it. Anyway, and it's slowly really been taken seriously that sex and porn is something that all people should be able to enjoy. And now I'm going to talk to you again about the gazers, or maybe certain orientations. And you can, if you like, talk about straight, homosexual, or the lucky bisexual people. I really envy them, I must say. Or you could use different terms just to sort of, I don't want to ask anyone to change their vocabulary, but maybe just think about it. And if you're a person that likes men, no matter what gender or anything you identify as, you could also say, I'm androsexual. I like men. Or just like people who say, oh, I like women. Women are hot. I love them. I'm gynosexual. Or you're a lucky bisexual again. Anyway, so I'm going to show you certain gazes. Yes, I have mentioned cyborgs because I identify as a cyborg and I'm an androsexual cyborg. Anyway. The androsexual gaze in classic way is Michelangelo's David, I think, is a wonderful example, and he's very hot. And I found this picture online, and the interesting thing is the first one on the right side shows sort of the classical museum, and the other ones look a bit more porny. And this is also a thing I've found on the internet with certain poses of men that you mostly know in the presentation is like women are shown. Maybe have something like that with a man. Because maybe some of you know from comic books that these swimsuit issues, of course, like Sports Illustrated, are very popular with a nice model on there or an actress or whatever on there. But in the comic book world, they often have variant covers. So you could go there and say, okay, we'll have a men issue and a female issue, but with the same content, and more gazes would be made. And you all know about killer combos. There's cars and girls. We know all about that. And from the internet now, there's a new combo out there. It's cats and men. Yes, that picture's awesome. It's hot. And there's a blog from France, Désormais des Chatons. Who knows it already? Oh, okay, not too little. And it's really successful. They're selling calendars, books, and memory games because they're always showing a hot guy and a cute kitten. And they've got this memory game where you have to align the cat and the kitten together. The man and the kitten is, oh, I've got it. And in September, there's also going to be a book out there, and I've pre-ordered it already. And this is very funny, because we all know from the gynosexual gaze that of the Playboy bunny, and this is sort of, I heard you like bunnies, so I put bunnies and the kitties together, and you know the story. And now I'm going to show you the gynosexual gaze. Classical Venus, Roman goddess of love. This is more recent from the 19th century. That is Alexandre Cabanel's picture of Venus, my favorite Birth of Venus picture. And there's a very nice story about beautiful Venus and food. Because anyone of you know about the Italian myth about how tortellini was made? How it's invented. It was because after the Roman Empire became Christian, and all the Roman gods were poor and they were out of work, and as one would say today in Berlin, their hearts fear. Poor souls. And Venus was walking around Italy and came to an inn, and the owner of the inn said, okay, young lady, you're really pretty, you look so famished and cold, come in, have a room. So she took a room there and didn't have to pay for it, but the landlord just couldn't resist to look through the keyhole, and he saw her beautiful belly button, and that is where he formed the tortellini from. I like that. And this is why I say, why can't we have both? Why can't we, instead of banning any kind of naked women in the Bild-Zeitung or naked women in adverts, why can't we have a men's quota for sexiness in public? Because androsexual people have got eyes. And here again, I've got the classics together again. It would be really nice to have both. And this is for the cyborgs. And the second thing is an all-inclusive sex symbol, because mostly when you have things about sex, it's often a symbol with women's body parts. Maybe these silhouettes are often used when something is about sex, even though there's a lot of more things in there. So I've been thinking about that, and I think people in America have been thinking about it, of John Oliver's show. And when he was in that show where he interviewed Snowden, just before that, he was talking about those NSA programs and compared the names to bad strip clubs in Florida. And I straight away noticed this. I had to screenshot it because representing these strip clubs is men and women. But still you'd have to have it separate. So I thought, how can one represent sex? Well, love is represented like that. So maybe really, really easy that everyone could understand, you could represent sex like this. Because it could be a nice cleavage, a pair of boobs, it could be a bum. Butts are unisex, or it could be a pair of ghoulies. All sexy. And the third and last thing is quit lying about sex. It will only make you feel bad. You have to take sex seriously, and you should talk about that creature in the living room. You've already got your martini on it. So I've got a little bucket list for you to mull over, think about, and maybe even do. It's the first thing is talk about it. Talk about it with your friends, talk about it maybe even with a stranger, but talk about sex like a normal thing, like you talk about the last meal you had. And on the other side, you also have to think about something else, and this is really important, is learn about what makes a creeper a creeper. Because if someone might talk to you about sex, or I might be talking to someone about sex, but I notice that they feel uncomfortable and they just feel, oh no, I just don't want to talk about that now. Or this person might even be asexual and not want to have anything to do with it. You have to learn to sort of notice the cues, or even directly ask them and say, am I creeping you? Shall I not talk about it? And it's the same thing as maybe you could imagine when you're in a train and you are absolutely not hungry, but someone next to you is eating a doner. That's awful. So, and find out that friendship and sexual attraction are really not opposite. There's so many discussions since I was a teenager. Can people that are sexually attracted to be friends also, but they can only be in a relationship or have sex? No, it's not true. I have several really good friends that we can just as a normal, friendly act, like you go to a restaurant or just have food together, you can also have sex together. Protected, clean, friendly, respectful sex. It's really worth it. And this is, I've written it especially really small. You really own your feelings. They are yours, and they're not yours to give to anyone. Other people might be able to share them with you, or see that you really like this person or don't like that person, but there is no such thing as giving hearts to people. And so next Christmas, you don't have to worry. And so as a last note, because this is also about Europe, and I'm British, I live in Germany, and today is the UK vote. And the Germans that here, beautiful Paul here, he lives in London, he's German, and he is allowed to vote for the Bundestag, even though he lives in London. I can't vote today. The voting system in Europe is really screwed up. And also, on another note, these new populist parties going around are not only populist and racist mostly, but also very sex negative. So if you think about voting, just go out and vote no matter what, but just don't vote any populists, because they will destroy your sex life. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're awesome. So you might have been wondering about the lovely young men I have on the stage. I was mirroring what often happens in shows centering around men and having decorative women. I just wanted to give you something nice to look at. Oh, thanks to Frank and Paul. Awesome. Really good sports. Oh. So, do you have any comments or questions?
I guess I have one.
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, one thing that I've noticed, I mean, I don't know if most of you live in Germany, but it's a really interesting, like, sexually speaking, well, actually, yeah. No, but I mean, like, I kind of like work in the tech field, and so like with a lot of programmers and a lot of geeks.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I know what you're talking about.
I also consider myself that. But anyway, the thing is, there's like this whole thing, like, you know, everybody tries to be really PC, and if there's like a woman around, it's like, no, I'm not interested, I'm not looking at you, we're just friends, I know how it goes. And it's kind of weird because even sometimes I think it could be beneficial for them to maybe, like, I don't know, just smile and say like, hey, or something like this. It's really interesting, and I don't know if it's just like a cultural thing, or is it like...
There's a lot of tension in there, and especially in the tech field, because there are some assholes out there that really creep women and have really weird ideas because they just don't sit down and really think that they own their emotions. And they don't have to be so desperate if they really think about themselves. And there's a really nice German saying, it's called, wer ficken will, muss freundlich sein. And I think that's the best pick-up advice. And you also don't have to be physically super attractive to be sexy, I think. There are so many people I find sexy, other people will think, oh God, I don't want them, but they find people sexy, I don't find sexy. And I think if sex or attraction is normalized, situations, especially what you're talking about in the tech field, will slowly get down because the sensation of this tension between sexes or genders will slowly become less attractive to be so emotional about. And you saying about people to smile, there's this cliche that men tell women to smile. I have been going round and telling men to smile. I've been going around and saying, why don't you smile, lad? You look lovely and nice ass. And they sort of, I know I'm being very, very provocative there, but I'm trying to do it in a very friendly way and also appreciative way, but to show these things swing both ways. And I just hope that you've got something to think about. I'll be publishing my slides with a lot of links, and I think there'll also be some blog posts afterwards. Another question.
Hi, here in the front.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a TED Talk a couple of years ago from Jonathan Haidt, an American psychologist, I think, who's written a book about moral compasses. And that's when I heard the equivalence between food and sex for the first time. And he mentioned in this talk that there was a split, that right-wing people were very liberal about food and very illiberal about sex, and it was the other way around with left people. Yeah. So I'm wondering that you came up with, or you brought up this equivalence again. If that is something that you, from your experience of talking to people about this, find again. That more people that are more right wing are more liberal about food than about sex, and the other way around.
That's interesting, because I've been watching a lot of TED Talks before this, because there are some excellent ones about sex. And I'll have to watch that, and maybe that might be a phenomenon in the States, though, because I don't know what it's like in Europe. But thanks for telling me this, because I'll keep my eyes peeled and look for patterns. That's interesting.
I just wanted to add a little note. I've tried to tell people that the concept of sexual competence is something we could take on, and learning about how to do it and how to do it well. That's a concept that many people find mind-blowing.
Yes, you have now really said something that is a talk of its own, and that would also but yes, totally.
I'm a headhunter, and I never see sex as one of the interests of the candidates. You know, interests like music, food, but sex is never one of the interests on the resumes and curriculum vitae.
It depends on where I would say there are certain, if you work in the sex industry and you might not talk about sex itself as an interest, but if you have people working in the sex industry or maybe in a sort of queer environment, they might somehow, if it's got something to do with a job or so, especially if they're modeling, they say if they've got certain kinks.
So you mean it's a sector problem, it's a tech problem? That people don't share their sex interest on their resume?
Well, on the other hand, would someone always share their food interests on their resume?
They do.
They do, okay.
Asian cuisine.
Okay, I've never done that, but okay, that's interesting. It's an interesting point, thanks. Loads of interesting points here, I like this. Great place.
Anybody else? Okay, then thanks, Ella. She'll be around, I'm sure, so you can come talk.
Yes, I will be. Thank you very much.